This is Best Available Podcast, episode 25, recording on a Sunday afternoon. First time we are recording on a Sunday since, I think, early September. And we're back. Matt suggested that we go with the hashtag BAP is back, and let's do it. I was sick. What a difference a couple weeks makes. Last week I was very sick. But now I'm good to go. I'm back at 100%, so we're back with another episode of Best Available Podcast. And Matt, it's January 31st. We've made it through, well, we still have about 11 hours left, but we've almost made it through the first month of 2021. So how are we feeling? Is it going to be a good year? What do you think?
Well, things are starting to turn around, I guess. It's going to take a while just to kind of build off. We're in a rebuild, right, Ryan? We're in a rebuild right now. 2020, we kind of, had to sell at the trade deadline, had a little bit of some contract disputes. Now we're back here in 2021. We're rebuilding. We have a nice stockpile of draft picks. So for us for the year, it's going to be a positive outlook. We're going to talk about Snowmageddon in a second, Ryan, but I'm happy you're feeling better. It's a scary time to be sick in general, so we're glad you're back to 100%. But yeah, feeling good about 2021. Past couple of days, we're getting some promising Johnson & Johnson news, I guess, right, Ryan? That vaccine is effective against serious stuff, so looks like we're starting the rebuild well here in 2021. But yeah, we're going to get like a foot of snow, so that's always good too.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. We talked about snow, I guess, a month and a half ago, and that was the snowstorm that we got. I think, I'd say maybe, 6 inches, I'm going to say. We weren't really supposed to get anything, and then it overperformed. I'm interested to see what happens with this one. I've seen a bunch of different things. I've seen it could be just annoyance. I could see it could be significant. I've seen it could be major. Nobody knows, and that's the fun of it. So I'm excited to just go to sleep tonight, wake up tomorrow morning, and see how it's looking. It's going to be like a 2-day thing, which is crazy. We have not had a snowstorm like this in, I don't know, at least 2 years, I want to say. Maybe even longer than that. But, Matt, you get to do your favorite activity pretty soon, which is shoveling snow. So how are you going to do any warm-up exercises? Are you going to stretch before you do that, or are you just going to go right into it?
No, the whole thing is you just gotta throw on sweatpants and go out there like cold, just ready to go. No stretches. You always have to pull something when you shovel, whether it be a back muscle, something in your leg. You always got to pull something, maybe an oblique. Yeah, I look forward to it, Ryan. But the fact that a big debate in our house is that my dad wants to intermittently shovel throughout the day, so we don't have a big job at the end of the snowstorm, which is annoying to me because not only would I have to wake up early, but then I would have to do it again later in the day. I'm a fan of just doing it all at once, because then you don't have to get sweaty twice. You don't have to put on, the boots and the 2 jackets and the gloves. So yeah, it's okay. What's the difference between major and significant, Ryan? You said this storm could be major or it could be significant. Which one's worse?
Major would be worse. It's just, the way I see it, an annoyance is snow that, maybe you got to shovel once, but other than that, you're fine. You can still drive around if you need to. As I said, it's more of an annoyance. Significant, you're in kind of like that 6 to 1 foot range. It's significant. You got to go out there, just like your dad said, you got to intermittently shovel throughout the day. Otherwise, your future year is going to be real upset. And then major is anything I say over a foot, where it's just, it stays on your lawn for about 2 weeks, and then it finally goes away. So I'm excited to see what happens. We've gone through this. I'm a big winter guy. I like the snow. I like the cold. So I'm excited. But I do side with your dad. I think that if you shovel it intermittently throughout the day, future you is a lot happier. Present you might be content to just let it all ride and then go out later, but future you, that's the person you're trying to help. So let's get a prediction. How much snow you think we're going to get, and then we'll come back to this next week and see who is right. I'm going to say 7 inches.
I'll take the over. Give me 10.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll take the over on that one.
Okay. All right, so we'll come back next week. We're both going to be way off because we're not meteorologists, but that's fun. It's something fun.
Well, most meteorologists are way off too. I mean, we're right in the same boat as they are.
So
it's a guessing game.
Before we get into our topics, I guess we're going to do our weekly book club segment. So, what are you still reading your Patriots book? How are you liking that?
So I'm still on the Star Wars book. Actually, had a little delay. Yeah, I'm going to add that to my lunch break now for the next 2 months with the G League season. So I'll probably finish it within a week or two. I'm starting to slack a little bit. I got off to a good start with the book club, Ryan, and then we just hit a wall. So I have been bad.
Well, I did finish the Alex Trebek book, which is very good. It's a great book for everybody. So I'd recommend, it doesn't matter if you watch Jeopardy or not. It's a great book for everybody. So I'd recommend it. It has some great life lessons. But now I've moved on to what has been called not only one of the best sports autobiographies of all time, but just one of the best autobiographies in general. And it's this Andre Agassi book called Open. And I am on chapter 6, and it's been a ride so far. It's been really good, and I can't wait to get more into it. Agassi was he was kind of before our time, but he was still in prominence when we were, I guess, 7 or 8. And then, of course, the Federers and the Nadals and Djokovic's, Murray's really started to take over. But Agassi was fun to watch. I went back and watched some of his matches, and he was fun to watch. So, yeah, I would recommend this so far. And if you're a sports fan, I think you would really like it. And that was our book club segment. So we have some exciting topics to get into. By the way, Matt had mentioned that the G League is starting. So normally we would record this podcast Monday afternoons, anywhere between 12 and 1, 2, and then we get it up soon after. We might transition to Monday nights when you get it because we're going to start recording Monday evenings. So just a little time change for the next couple months, and then we'll reevaluate. And also, if you watch the video version of this, I know there's at least one of you out there, you will see that we have a new layout. So we have a rundown to the left, so you can skip around and see what we're talking about. Have a little ticker at the bottom, a little lower third. So give us some feedback on that. Let us know what you think. Let us know if you like it, dislike it. Would love the feedback. But the first topic we're going to talk about, Matt, the positive about being able to record today as we get in front of this. And it's the big NFL blockbuster that happened last night. Matthew Stafford has found a new team. Now, obviously, this trade can't become official until March, but Matthew Stafford was traded to the Los Angeles Rams, and in exchange, the Detroit Lions received 2 first-round picks, one in 2022 and then one in 2023, a 2021 third-round pick, and Jared Goff. So, we'll start with this from the Rams' perspective. Matt, we knew that they were going to try to get rid of Goff. We knew they had interest in Stafford, but I think it's still a little surprising that this came together so quickly. So from the Rams' perspective, how do you feel about this trade right now?
I like to think that they were winners of this trade, Ryan. I think the only issue with that is they don't have any first-round picks for a couple of years now, and they really don't have any on their roster anymore either. I mean, Schefter put up the tweet last night. I mean, now that Goff's off the team since 2016, they don't have any of their first-round picks anymore. I'm really kind of wanting to say that LA won that trade. I mean, you get a veteran quarterback. Sean McVay finally doesn't have Jared Goff on that team. They're able to unload Jared Goff's contract, which I think was the bigger thing. But it just shows how much it takes to get rid of a contract of that magnitude. So I think the Rams, listen, we talked about how the Seahawks were frauds all year. LA went in there and beat Seattle this year. Obviously, there's no fans there. But I think LA, and I'll get out ahead of this, I think they should be the favorites in that division next year.
Mm.
I think top down, especially with that defense, I think they're the best team in that division. And you put a guy in Stafford there. I've always been a fan of him. I'm happy he's somewhere where he could win. So I'm just happy for Matt Stafford and Sean McVay too, except he's taken a lot of heat for trading every draft pick they've ever had. So it's going to burn them down the road, but they might be able to get a Super Bowl out of it. But they're also in the wrong conference to do that.
So the reason you make this move is if you think that you're a quarterback away from being a Super Bowl contender. And you could make that case for the Rams, as you brought up. They had a very good defense, one of the best units in the league. They have great offensive weapons. But there were times you would watch the Rams this year and you'd be like, if they had even an average quarterback, I wonder how they would look. And you could tell that that relationship was kind of getting sour, at least on the Rams side. You could tell just based on the way that Goff was supposedly healthy, and yet they still went with Wolford in the playoffs in the wild card game. So from that aspect, I can kind of see why Stafford is a better option than Goff. I think we can all agree on that. How much better is he than Goff? It's hard to evaluate what he's done in Detroit over the past several years just because of the situation he's been in. I'd like to think that with McVay, he could be a top 5 quarterback next year. My issue is that defense is it changes so much. It's so volatile from year to year. Just because they were good this year, well, now Brandon Staley's gone. If Donald and Ramsey don't stay healthy next year, I mean, we kind of saw that in the divisional round game against Green Bay with Donald not at 100%. I kind of worry that if that defense doesn't play like they did this year, this move is it'll end up being a waste. That would be my main worry.
I don't think so. You still got off of the Goff contract, though. And I think that's going to make it really hard, and we'll probably get into it, really hard for other teams with below average quarterbacks with big contracts. The 49ers, to be one example, to be able to unload their quarterback. I mean, this shows how much it takes to get rid of that contract. But, Ryan, I think Stafford's been a top 10 quarterback almost every year of his career. I mean, what he's been able to do in Detroit, just the sheer amount of yardage. I mean, the past 2 years, I agree, he's been hurt in and out of the lineup a little bit. They haven't done a good job of protecting him back there. They also had Matt Patricia as his head coach. So I think we should take anything under that era for Matt Stafford and throw it out the window, because we saw what Patricia did to that franchise. He took a 500 team that Caldwell had and just ran it into the ground. So I think Stafford's a really good get, and I thought he was one of the best that you could get outside of probably Watson. I don't think Rodgers is available, so throw him out. Out of the quarterbacks that are available, Stafford was probably number 2 on that list in terms of ready to go. Throw him in there. So I think it's. I don't want to say Super Bowl or bust, Ryan, because you have Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers in that conference. I mean, it's going to be hard for them to really kind of crack into the top tier of this side.
I think it's fair to say that it is Super Bowl or bust. You don't go almost a decade without making a first-round pick. You don't make this trade for this guy, this former number 1 overall quarterback that's... I'm not going to get into my personal thoughts on him, but around the league, you could tell he's held in high regard. You don't make this trade unless you think that this is the guy that's going to bring you to Super Bowl. And I could see that happening. It's just, now we're going to find out. I think that's the most interesting part of this trade. For years, we've heard that Stafford has not been in the right situation, and that's why his talent hasn't really been on full display. Well, now we're going to see. He has a lot of great weapons on that Los Angeles offense. We're going to really see if Sean McVay is as much of an offensive mastermind as he's painted out to be throughout the league. Now we're really going to find out, like, this is it. This is going to solve a lot of questions that people have had for years. So from that standpoint, I'm excited. But so you said that they're the best team in the division. I'm not ready to go there yet. I need to wait. I need to see. I might put a couple other teams ahead of them, even with Stafford, but it gives them a better chance to be a contender. I will give you that.
But here's my thing, Ryan. We talked about Arizona before. You're not a huge Cliff guy. They're still a year or two out. I mean, in Seattle, we've been pounding our fist on this since October. They're just not that good. So by default, I think you got to slot LA in there. And I mean, even if a healthy San Francisco, maybe they're back to what they were. I mean, I think it's the biggest wild card division out there, especially if San Francisco can make a move to get Watson. Then I think all four teams could realistically finish either at 8-8 or above. They're all really capable teams.
It's got to be the best division in the league, right? I'm just trying to think about it right now. There's not another division I think that compares. I mean, maybe the AFC West if the Chargers take a big step forward, but the NFC West has to be the best, right?
No, I agree. Everyone forgot about San Francisco also, and we talk about teams that are a quarterback away. They're the other team that's at the top of that list. But we mentioned this before, that asking price for Deshaun Watson after what happened for Stafford, it's going to be almost impossible to go out and get that guy without decimating your franchise and all of your remaining assets. So he's probably going to be a Houston Texan next year. I can't see him being traded.
That's a good segue. So let's move to the Detroit Lions. We see what they got for Matthew Stafford. 2 future first-round picks, a third-round pick this year, and then a quarterback who it doesn't seem like they're ready to commit to him as a long-term option, which they shouldn't be. They'd be smart to wait. But they got future assets. They have a new head coach. They have a new general manager. You could tell they're trying to start fresh. So from that perspective, I think that they did a very good job in this deal. I mean, we had heard that Stafford, they might get 1 first-round pick for him, maybe something else. I don't know if anyone expected them to get 2 future firsts and a third. I mean, that's, for Matthew Stafford, I get that he's a talented guy, but that's a good haul, especially for a guy his age with the amount of years left he has on his contract. That's a good haul. So I like that trade for the Lions. I'm excited to see what they're able to do. Obviously, if this works out for the Rams, those picks aren't going to be very valuable. They're going to be at the end of the first round, but you don't know. The NFL, I say it every episode, the NFL stands for not for long. It only takes one injury on that Rams team for that pick to suddenly become very valuable. Just like the Dolphins this year and the Texans pick. So what do you think about this from the Lions' perspective, Matt? I mean, they're your Detroit Lions. I'm sure you were heartbroken when you got this notification initially. So what are your thoughts?
I think the big thing with the Goff deal is at least you get him under team control for a couple years. It kind of sucks the contract itself and the way it's structured. I said this in our group chat last night. Him and Dan Campbell are not going to mesh well at all. I mean, Jared Goff is this Cali bro, laid back. And if anyone watched the Dan Campbell press conference, Ryan, he's like, we're going to get up, we're going to bite off their kneecaps, and then we're going to get knocked down, we're going to get up, and we're going to bite off their knees again. I'm like, it's not going to work. Like, and if it does, then I'm wrong. But they are just two completely different dudes with different mindsets. The first-round picks are great. If you're a Detroit Lions fan, like you mentioned I am, it's going to be a very long rebuild for them. It's the way they're going and signaling, like you said, starting fresh. But everyone that I've seen tweet about it says this is going to be like a pretty long process, and that's why Campbell's under contract for, 5 or 6 years. So it's not going to be pretty for a long time.
I mean, this trade essentially, Campbell has a lot of leeway, clearly, and the GM does too. This gives him at least 4 years. He has a 6-year contract. This gives him at least 4. And then,
but I don't really know much about Dan Campbell. I just remember him, I guess, when he was the interim for the Dolphins. His name kind of surprised me with all the other names that were out there this year, Ryan, to get that job. I mean, he seems respected enough that he was kind of the front runner for Detroit for a while, but I don't know. I don't know if he's going to be able to connect with. It's just that press conference, Ryan. It's just it's still in my head. I mean, it's just him and then everyone roasting your boy Sirianni in Philly. I mean, it was not a banner year for introductory press conferences for head coaches. That's for sure.
I'm not even going to get into the Sirianni thing. It just pissed me off so much. I don't even, it's not worth my time. And not from Sirianni's side, by the way. The media grilling him was the thing that pissed me off. But, Matt, you brought up Watson before we get off this thing. If Stafford got traded for what he did, it's like, what does Watson go for at that point? Like, you were kind of alluding, like, what, 4 firsts now?
He's immovable. No one's going to give up that much, and if they do, then they're insane. Like, I could tell you right now, the Patriots would never give up that much for Stafford, let alone Watson, so they're completely out of the mix. I think the only team that would be willing to do that would be the Niners, but again, I don't think that's necessary. They have a really good team, and I don't think they need to mortgage everything to go get Watson unless they're certain they could compete in the best division of football. So I think he's going to be a Texan next year, Ryan. I can't see him being traded.
Do you think he's going to play, though? I mean, he can be a Texan, but I don't think he would play a game for them if he's not traded.
Yeah, but then at that point, Houston's really screwed because then they're not going to be able to get anything. So I think if you're Houston, to avoid that, you just have to take the best available offer right now. Because if you wait until your best available I'm assuming that's why you smiled, best available offer, and then move on. Because if you wait till September, we've seen other kind of situations like that. I'll bring up the one with the banner right behind me. Mookie Betts. Red Sox had no leverage. They traded him for crap. And the same's going to happen for the Texans if they wait and wait and wait. They won't have any leverage, and they'll have to trade him for nothing. So I say just take the best available offer and move on.
This offseason has the potential to be unprecedented in terms of how many quarterbacks switch teams. We've already had 2, and I'm sure we're going to be talking about more after the Super Bowl as the offseason goes along. It's going to be an exciting time to be a podcaster and a media member like Matt and I are, just to be able to break it down. But moving from this exciting news to news that was not very exciting, longtime Temple University basketball coach John Chaney passed away a few days ago at the age of 89. Coincidentally, it was like right after his birthday, after a brief illness. And this is getting a lot of run all over the country, as it should, but it's really getting a lot of run in our area just because of the local connection, because of what he did at Temple. And I don't want to necessarily say that he put Temple on the map because they had good programs before he got there, but he had a lot of success with that team, with that program. I mean, you look at it, 17 tournament appearances, I think it was. He got to the Elite Eight with Temple 5 times. He won over 500 games there. And overall, he won, I think it was 741 because he coached at Chaney State, coincidentally, before coming to Temple. But when we think about the best coaches in college basketball history, I mean, you have to put Chaney up there. He did so much, not only for Temple, but I'd say for the sport in general. I mean, you can't talk about college basketball without talking about John Chaney.
Yeah, I agree. You talk about his success at Temple, Ryan. Even if you go to Chaney State, he's only, I think, missed the postseason. So this is counting the NIT and any other tournaments, in 3 seasons combined between Temple and Chaney State. So you talk any player that played against him or played for him had the utmost respect for him. I know Coach Rice after the Monmouth game, I guess Friday, was talking about it. He obviously played against Chaney in the Elite Eight in '91. Just what he did for Temple, and you're right, Ryan. I mean, they never really reached the consistent heights that they did with Chaney until he was there. And even after, I mean, obviously with Fran Dunphy, but one of the best of all time. We lost John Thompson right before the season also. And we're losing a lot of big sports figures in general, too. Hank Aaron, during the time that we were on pause, he passed away as well. Not to veer off, but we're losing a lot of big figures in sports. But in terms of, as you mentioned, impact on college basketball, Chaney has to be up there, 100%.
I mean, he got this Temple team to a #1 seed and #1 in the final AP poll of the 87-88 season. Temple, an A10 team, was #1 in the country. Like, that's difficult to do. I mean, just looking at his coaching record, it's impressive what he was able to do. And I was reading an article in the Inquirer over the weekend about it just because I wanted to learn more about him. And, I mean, it was kind of consistent. Nobody wanted to play Temple back then. Now, I don't mean that in a bad way, just because they were always you knew that you were going to be in for a slugfest whenever you went up against Chaney's teams. And he was always so outspoken for good causes. He always took chances. That's how he got a lot of his talent. He took chances on guys that were overlooked. Maybe they came from a rough background, and he molded them into good, not just basketball players, but good people, good men. And I think that's, especially as a college coach, that's probably the biggest accolade you can get. I understand the Final Fours and the titles, but if you're able to mold these guys into college graduates that are going to be able to contribute after they leave the college or the university, that's a big success. And, I mean, he did send guys to the NBA, but I think that's his biggest success, just molding as many guys as he did throughout his time there.
Yeah, and especially, like you said, at a school like Temple, without him, not a lot of people would really know Temple or what Temple's about. As you look at the schools in Philly, Ryan, I mean, you have Villanova. At least right now, they kind of cast a shadow on the rest of the Big Five, but Temple, for the longest time, before Jay Wright kind of built that program up in Villanova, Temple was kind of the team to beat. And when Dunphy kind of carried the torch after Chaney, it was the same thing, but that was because of what Chaney did there for so long. And like you said, him and John Thompson were both known for building not only the program, but also just individuals. So this past year and a month has just been taking away so many big figures and impactful people in sports, and Chaney was the most recent from that.
Yeah, and there was that clip that was going around, which, yeah, I mean, you know, even given the circumstances, it was so funny to see when him storming into Calipari's press conference and just him throwing a fit. I mean, that's who he was. He was a feisty guy on the court and off the court, but at the same time, yeah, just you brought it up, you know, stuff that his players and former coaches and everything said about him. There's no one else you wanted in your corner other than John Chaney. The guy was just, he was an awesome individual. So it's a big loss, and I think he brought up a good point. We're losing so many people. It seems like every week we lose somebody new, and that's just part of life. I forget who said it, but it's just the older you get, the more people you know that died. And unfortunately, I guess we're reaching that age where we just see a lot of these figures start to pass on, and that's just part of life. But John Chaney, dead at 89 years of age, lived a good life, absolutely. But let's move on to something a little more positive now, and that's we're going to go around the nation a little bit for college basketball. We haven't done this in a while. So we have a college basketball expert on the show, and his name is Matt DeLuca. So I'm just gonna give some brief statements, but I know Matt will be able to go in depth. So we have 3 undefeated teams left in the nation. We have Gonzaga, we have Baylor, and we have Drake. So those are your final 3 teams, and you go through well, let me ask you this. I think this is going to be a good way to go about it, Matt. So you're aware of the teams around the nation. You're aware of how the bracketology is looking. So who are some teams right now that are playing really well that people should know about?
Well, you mentioned 2 of them, Gonzaga and Baylor. I know John Rothstein on Twitter makes this reference. They're basically shoo-ins at this point for the Final Four. I think they're head and heels above everyone else. Gonzaga started out slow against Pepperdine last night, Ryan, and then I changed the channel to watch something else with the Celtics, and then I turned back and they were winning by like 20. So just too much talent between those two, and I would be really shocked If either lose really at any point, I think if the team that's more likely to lose in the regular season would be Baylor, just because of the conference they play in. But once they get to the NCAA tournament, if you talk about bracketology, Ryan, they're basically shoo-ins for at least the Sweet 16. And I think that's underselling how good they are. Maybe the Elite Eight or the Final Four. Villanova's starting to come back. They were off for almost a month with COVID, so they're starting to get back into form. But the biggest story, Ryan, is the Oklahoma Sooners. Their past 3 wins, Ryan, are against top 10 teams. So last week they beat Kansas, then Texas, obviously without Shaka Smart in that game, but then they beat Alabama yesterday. They had another top 10 win earlier on in Big 12 play against West Virginia. They surprised me because for years they're like the Syracuse teams, right, that were on the bubble, and they're kind of like not exciting. Ever since the Buddy Hield team, they've been like that. But they're giant killers this year. They look really good. They got another one. So depending on when we put this up on Monday night, they're going to be at Texas Tech. I don't think that's going to be a top 10 matchup for their perspective because Texas Tech didn't really look too good yesterday. But that'll be another ranked game. So yeah, the biggest story right now, Ryan, is Oklahoma for sure. 3 top 10 wins consecutively. And they just look really good.
Well, I want to ask you some questions, and I hope that by me asking these questions, you'll be able to answer. You'll be able to give some answers that I'm sure other people are looking for. Coming into the season, you said Drake had the pieces to stay competitive. As I said, they're one of the final undefeated teams in the nation. But when you look at their strength of schedule, it's not very good. So right now, looking at Joe Lunari's bracketology, they're slated to be a 9 seed. So how good really is this Drake team in your eyes?
I think we're going to find out because they still have to play Loyola Chicago, which is obviously the bigger name team in the Missouri Valley. I'm trying to pull up their schedule right now. It's a little harder because they're unranked. Yeah, I agree. They haven't really played anyone yet. You're going to still have to play 2 games at Valpo, which is on the road. You still have to play Northern Illinois. They still have a lot of the harder games in the Missouri Valley. Excuse me. We'll have to play. I think Drake's good, though. They had some big losses in the offseason, but they've been the huge surprise. Do I think they're going to win the Missouri Valley? No. I think Loyola Chicago is better than them, and we'll find out. I think the weekend of Valentine's Day is when they play. So we'll find out pretty soon who's really the top dog in the Missouri Valley. But Drake, they're fun to watch. Don't get me wrong. But they still have to do some more. And you know this too, being from a mid-major school, Ryan. This is all great, but once you go play in your conference tournament, you could lose in the first round. So that's what happened last year. The number 1 team in the Missouri Valley, Northern Illinois lost to, I think, Drake in their first game, either Drake or Bradley. So it's a crapshoot no matter what.
Well, I want to moving from the surprising team to, I'd say, a bigger surprise overall, probably for casual fans. If you go to look at the bracketology, there's 2 teams there that you would expect to be there that aren't, and it's Duke and Kentucky. Right now, they're not in Joe Lunardi's bracketology. Duke and Kentucky especially has struggled a lot this year. I mean, Duke as well, but what is the path, if any, to making the tournament for these teams? Is it still possible for both of these teams to make the tournament?
I think it's almost impossible for Kentucky. They'd be lucky to get a postseason appearance. I just think with a team like that, and even like Duke, Ryan, when you get all these newcomers in, you need a full offseason. You need to be around each other for long periods of time, which obviously COVID eliminated all of that. So then you get to a shortened preseason, and then you just kind of have to figure it out on the fly. And then Keon Brooks was hurt for a while for Kentucky at the beginning of the year, and they're in a really good SEC. I mentioned this in my preview. The SEC is really deep this year for a conference that is known mostly for football. it's really kind of taken off in basketball, and I don't see the wins there for Kentucky. I think it's easier for Duke because I think they're in the middle of the line in the ACC, which is kind of unexciting this year, and we're not used to that because that's usually the premier conference in college basketball. But I think it's easier for Duke. I'm not a huge fan of Duke with what they have this year, but if there's any team that could sneak in, Ryan, it's that, especially with the way that Clemson's been dropping games lately. They could kind of do a little switcheroo there at some point, but yeah, the ACC's kind of not doing it for me this year. But that's why I think Duke has the better path to the tournament.
Well, you brought up the SEC, and I did want to talk about Alabama quickly. So in your preseason preview, you projected them to be number 4, but you still really liked that entire squad. So right now they're slotted in as a 2 seed. So what have you liked from them this year?
They grade out really well in a lot of categories. That article that I put on Friday that I still got to kind of promote on my own socials talked about speed and tempo, and Alabama is right up there at the top of one of the fastest teams in the country, and they play pretty well. I mean, obviously the SEC, as I mentioned, is kind of tough, but they're so deep. I mean, the former Nova guy that you probably heard, Ryan, Javon Quinterly's down there now. He's playing well after things didn't work out up here in Philly. Shackelford, Petty, Herb Jones, they're just so deep. Nate Oates is such a good coach. It's kind of crazy that Alabama is good in football and basketball now. For years, it's kind of been the forgotten program, but if there were full capacity stadiums, I mean, it would probably be one of the most raucous places to play just because of how good this team is. And especially with Florida kind of starting to pick things up now, I think teams towards the bottom of the SEC are going to have a harder time, but I mean, that top tier is really good. And Alabama, despite losing yesterday, I'm still really high on them. But we're going to find out. You play Missouri, you play Arkansas again, you play LSU. So we'll see, but they look really good.
So my final question to you, so we went through Gonzaga is obviously doing well, Baylor's doing well, Michigan, Villanova, Iowa, those kinds of teams, they're all doing well. Who's maybe a well-known school that's struggling a little bit, but you still have faith can make a run in March?
It's a good question. Well, I think, we mentioned Duke. I don't think they can make a run in March, but in terms of a team that can make a push to get into March, they would be number 1 on the list. I think Creighton can hang around in March. Illinois is starting to pick things up. It's kind of tough. I mean, Florida, too, even without Keontae Johnson, is still a really good team in my eyes. So I don't know. It's still kind of tough right now. In terms of teams struggling, I don't know if I really have one for you right now, but I don't know. I'm really high, though, on Florida State. They caught a bad loss yesterday at Georgia Tech, excuse me. I really like them. I really like UConn as well. So they've been kind of rising up recently, but I don't know. It's going to be interesting for sure this year. I think there's 2 open spots in the Final Four. I don't think Gonzaga and Baylor are going to relinquish either of those. Michigan obviously hit a pause. I think they're going to struggle when they come back. They had a department-wide pause, and they were playing really well right before that pause, Ryan, number 4 in the nation. So if there's any team that's I anticipate struggling, it's going to be Juwan Howard's squad and whenever they resume. So we're going to preemptively put them on the struggle watch.
So that does it for my questions. Are there any other points that you'd like to make, things that you'd like people to be aware of in terms of college basketball? Because, I mean, the season it's almost over. I mean, conference tournaments are starting up pretty soon. I mean, March Madness starts in a month and a half.
Well, I don't know how many conference tournaments are going to because the NCAA has this new rule of you have to test negative for 7 consecutive days in order to go to the bubble in Indianapolis to play. So I'm interested to see how many conferences still go full send on their tournament, which in theory is going to protect the best teams if there's less conference tournaments. You're going to protect your good teams and put them in automatically, or a shorter tournament or something. I think that's going to be the big thing to watch out for down the stretch. I think there's a lot of good teams to watch all around the country. The Big Ten's beating up on each other. I think the big thing for that, too, is when you look at a Big Ten team, you're not going to see a lot of them really in the top 2 seeds, but that's because they play each other all the time, and they're like a 10, 12 deep team conference. So I know Iowa's 2. I had Illinois 2 in my last bracket, I think, but that was last month before they started beating up on other teams. So don't look at a Big Ten team that's, a lower seed and count them out. Like Rutgers, I think Lenardi has them at 11. That might be a dangerous 11 seed. Like, they're really good. So any Big Ten team that's like 8 or lower is just as good as a 5 seed for most teams. That's how deep this field is going to be.
Well, there you go. That was our college basketball expert, Matt DeLuca. And we will be sure to do this again because as I made a note of, the season it's coming to a close. So we'll be sure to keep tabs, keep updates, and see how the nation is going in terms of college basketball. More hot stove news, this time of different sports. We had the big blockbuster in the NFL. Just before that, the day before, we had a blockbuster in Major League Baseball. And it was Nolan Arenado being traded to the St. Louis Cardinals for a package of players that included Austin Gomber, John Torres. The package itself was not very impressive in terms of what the Rockies got, and the Rockies were sending money over as well. So essentially, the Cardinals, they've been interested in Nolan Arenado for a while, and they were able to get him one of the best third basemen, possibly the best third baseman in baseball. I don't want to say for almost nothing because I don't want to disrespect the players that are going back, but they got to hold on to all their top prospects, and they got an elite player. So obviously we start with the Cardinals. Where the NL Central itself doesn't seem like it's doing a lot. I mean, most teams this offseason haven't done anything, but the NL Central especially, it seems like nobody really wanted to win. But now the Cardinals make this move. So it seems like they're going to win the division at this point, but where does this put the Cardinals in terms of the other contenders in the league in your eyes?
I still think they're a tier below San Diego and the Dodgers. I don't know if you agree with that. They obviously pushed San Diego in the postseason last year, but that was many moves before what San Diego did in the offseason. We're in a weird spot in Major League Baseball, Ryan. I mean, in the span of like a year, Mookie Betts, Francisco Lindor, and Nolan Arenado all got traded. This reminds me a lot of the Betts trade because, as you mentioned, not nothing, but you kind of got him for a very good price. I think it definitely makes them the favorite in the division, which doesn't really say much, I guess, because, as you mentioned, it's not really the most exciting collection of teams. But, good for Halper, right? I mean, Nick Halper, longtime Cardinals fan. I'm happy for him. Haven't talked to him yet about the move, but, I mean, you mentioned it. They were linked to him for a long time now. Arenado finally happened. You got him and Goldschmidt. It's a pretty good combo on the hot corner, Ryan, between Goldschmidt and Arenado. So that's cool, but it's going to be hard to catch the Dodgers and the Padres at this rate. Like, they're going to need to do more, in my eyes, at least.
Yeah, so they have Colton Wong, who's still out there. I'm sure they're looking into re-signing him. So we can discuss this. My answer is no. But some Cardinals fans, including the one that you had just mentioned, believe that if Colton Wong does re-sign, the Cardinals have the best infield in baseball. I disagree. What do you think?
I disagree as well. I mean, we talked about it in our group chat too. There's a few teams that I can make a case for, but I don't know about the best infield in baseball. I think that's a little. What is he gauging it on, though, is the thing, in terms of like defensive prowess or just overall talent?
I guess just overall talent. I mean, I would definitely put the Padres in front of them. I'd put the Yankees in front of them. The Mets got Lindor. I would put the Mets in front of them. I think the Cardinals would be in the discussion. Are they far? If they get Wong back, are they far and away the best infield? I don't think so. But as you mentioned, they have a potent first third base combo. That's good. And I think it's very good that in an offseason where teams are intentionally not paying people because they don't want to lose money, I think it's nice to see that some teams are still committed to winning games. That's a nice thing to see. I This isn't any type of good analysis at all, but it seems like I feel like the Cardinals are going to be there at the end. It just seems like that type of year when maybe they're not the most talented team, but all the pieces just mesh together and they're good to go. They did get Adam Wainwright back. I don't really know what that does. I'm not really bullish on his long-term performance, especially in a 162 game season, but I guess it's a good thing morale-wise and fan base-wise that they brought him back. I don't know, but I agree with you. I do think they need to get something else. I don't know what that is, but the St. Louis Cardinals they're going to win the division, I think, right? I mean, is there any other team in that division you think can compete with them?
No, no. Cincinnati would have been my like sexy pick, but obviously Bauer's still kind of floating out there, and if you lose him, it's going to be a big hit to your chances to compete. You mentioned St. Louis, Ryan. I mean, they always kind of sneak in there somehow into the NLCS. They did that, I guess, 2 years ago, right, when they lost to the Nationals. They just kind of sneak in there. They beat a team that was better than them, and they just kind of are there. And that could very well be the chance this year, depending on which NL West team they catch in the division series.
That division's going to be bad. I mean, it seems like that division's always been bad for the most part during our lifetimes. But, I mean, you got Pittsburgh. They're rebuilding. Chicago I guess they're rebuilding based on what they've done. I mean, they still have talent, but I don't know how much longer guys like Baez and Bryan are going to be there. Cincinnati, as you said, without Bauer, they've lost some pieces. I don't know how good they're going to be. Milwaukee struggled last year. They don't impress me a lot. I mean, this just seems like a division St. Louis gets to maybe 90 wins, 89, 90, and they win it easily by 10 games. But I've been wrong before. I'll probably be wrong again. From the Rockies' perspective, I would be pissed if I was a Rockies fan. Clearly, this is my opinion. Clearly, the front office doesn't care about winning. That team had a lot of talented pieces just a couple years ago, 2 to 3 years ago, and they've blown it all up. I was reading something about it, and I guess it kind of made sense. The type of people that go to Rockies games, they go there as like a happy hour where there just so happens to be a baseball game going on. So I guess the front office thinks that they can just get away with it because people keep paying money for it. Colorado and Denver, they deserve a good baseball team. I hope I've always liked the Rockies just because I have family out there. I really hope that at some point they become good again. But it's just seeing how their farm system looks, seeing what they got for Arenado. I know they're not going to get anything good for Story if that's what they got for Arenado. I'd be pissed if I was a Rockies fan. I don't know how people support that organization.
We live in a Major League Baseball, Ryan, where small market teams just don't want to make the leap. And I consider Colorado a small market team when you compare them to who else is out there. They just don't. People are cheap, and I don't think there's an excuse for owners in baseball when you compare it to other sports, because NBA owners certainly shelled out some money during the offseason. NHL owners did too, somewhat. I mean, the NFL certainly will too. I have no doubt in my mind about that. And I feel like it's just MLB owners that are cheap, right? I mean, we look at these trades in the past year, like we talked about Cleveland a couple weeks ago. We talked about the Red Sox at length too. There's just these teams that just don't want to spend money. So I would be pissed if I were a Rockies fan too. I mean, I don't know how many of them there are, to be honest with you. Don't want to go to a baseball game in April in Colorado. It would be 20 degrees. So, yeah, they were right there with the Brewers a couple years ago, our senior year of college. And then it's just all squandered away. We see it all too often with these teams that aren't necessarily big market teams. So it's just a yearly occurrence, just with different teams.
I do want to get to Coors Field at some point because you brought it up. I wouldn't want to go there in April, but it's definitely on my top 5 of baseball stadiums that I want to get to as soon as possible. So what's on that list for you, out of curiosity?
Well, I've only been to one, actually. I've only been to Philadelphia, so the list is really big for me.
I've only been to 2. I've been to Philadelphia, and I've been to Baltimore. So, I mean, the good thing is that we have the rest of our lives to go to these stadiums. But I know Coors Field is definitely high on my list of places that I want to go. It just seems like a neat place to see a game.
So I was outside of Fenway Park, but I don't really count that. We went during the MAC tournament senior year. But we'll say Fenway as a Red Sox fan, but I won't count it as my top 5. I guess the next one that would be on my list would be San Francisco. I want to go watch a game out there. Not in April, again. Yeah, I would say San Francisco and then San Diego would be my top 2.
They would be in my top 5. San Francisco, San Diego, Colorado, all in my top 5. I think I'd like to go to Pittsburgh just because that seems like a nice picturesque stadium, and I'm not too far away from it, so I guess I really don't have an excuse. And then whenever the Oakland Athletics build their new stadium, I would like to go there. That seems cool. So
if that ever happens.
Well,
yeah.
We just talked about people being cheap, so we'll see.
Atlanta's got a nice new field going on down there.
No.
Huh? You're not a fan of SunTrust Park?
No, I'm not a fan of the Tomahawk Chop. I'm not going anywhere where that happens. I can't do it to myself. It's not good. Yeah,
you are, and there's still a lot of places. I like to go to Yankee Stadium with the boys for a Red Sox Yankees game. Actually, no, I don't want to go where I'm going to get berated for 3 hours by New Yorkers. So we'll go for like a game they play Kansas City or some random team.
There you go, Kansas City.
Or we're supposed to go when they play the Astros. We're supposed to go when they play the Astros if that happens.
We'll see.
It's not going to be exciting if we go in like 2022 because everyone's going to forget that they banged on trash cans for 2 seasons.
Yeah. But yeah. That sucks. Hopefully this year.
COVID robbed us of another fun experience of watching Zach Cosenza show up in a trash can costume to taunt Jose Altuve. So it robbed us of that.
Well, you did bring up the Yankees and the Red Sox, Matt. Speaking of MLB offseason moves, the stove is heating up. The last time we talked, I said that it was kind of at like a medium low. Now it's probably at like a medium. I don't think it's at medium high yet. But the Red Sox and Yankees did make a trade for the first time since the Steven Drew deal. And then before that, the last time was, I think, 96. I could be wrong on that. But the Red Sox got Adam Ottavino. Congratulations.
Thank
you. How are you guys contenders again? Is this the move? Is this the big offseason move that we were waiting for?
Well, it's probably big to John Henry because he doesn't want to, go out and get anyone that's actually good. I was very kind of, bleh about the Red Sox for a while, but then one of our writers posted a depth chart from, I guess, either opening day or spring training or whatever last year to this year, and it's day and night difference. So they're at least deeper. They're watchable somewhat when you compare them to last year, especially the pitching depth. I mean, I couldn't name you 5 guys off their bullpen last year. So they're a little bit deeper.
We got 2 of them.
Yeah, well, I don't even count those 2. So it's cool, I guess, that I saw that because it gave me at least somewhat confidence that they won't totally suck. But I wouldn't be surprised if they trade Benintendi and Martinez and every good player we have by the deadline. So can't wait to be like the Pirates.
Well, speaking of a team in Pennsylvania, the Phillies, despite losing $2 billion this offseason, they did find a little bit of money in the couch cushions to re-sign JT Realmuto and Didi Gregorius. So that's good. So now they won't finish 5th in the division. Matt, they'll finish 4th as of right now, so that's a positive. This is something that they had to do. They had no other option, so I'm glad that it seems like since Dombrowski's come in, he's been able to convince ownership to spend a little bit of money since other teams are not. The pitching is still a major issue outside of the top 3. There's not really a lot of reliable guys for rotation. They did sign Matt Moore. I don't know if Matt Moore is going to be good, but hopefully he can eat some innings. They need some bullpen pieces, but re-signing Realmuto and Gregorius, because I brought it up, there's not a lot of teams that have done things this offseason. It just so happens that all the teams that did seem to be in the National League East. So the Phillies need to do this to keep up. I think the offense will be good. I think a full season of Alec Boehm will be good. They need to get some more pitching. If they get some more pitching before training or spring training, I'll be content. They can't go into the season with the pitchers that they have right now. They need more reinforcements.
Yeah, I was going to say congratulations on getting Matt Moore, Ryan. I forgot he existed until I saw that tweet. For a second, I thought it was a different sport with the quarterback, Matt Moore. But, congratulations. You got former Tampa Bay Rays pitcher Matt Moore. I didn't even know he pitched in Detroit 2 years ago. Yeah, maybe. Seems like he played decently in Japan last year or wherever he played. I don't even know. I'm looking at their depth chart right now, Ryan. I don't know who half these guys are in your bullpen. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know who half these guys are.
Cool.
What? Am I supposed to know who some of these people are?
I guess most people wouldn't. I'll say the good thing about Matt Moore, and this was a point that I saw brought up, the amount of innings he pitched in Japan last year would have been far and away the most in the major leagues. So he's pitched more innings than major league pitchers did last year because Japan handled things a little better than I'll get political. But because of the way Japan handled things, Matt Moore was able to pitch a lot of innings. That's a luxury going into this year. You're going to need guys that can eat innings. I mean, we can get into this, especially when we start doing our MLB preview next month, I guess. But that's the big thing. These guys, these MLB pitchers, they didn't pitch a lot last year. So we're going to have to see how they're going to adapt. I mean, these guys went from pitching close to 200 innings to like 60, and now you're going to ask them to go close to 200 again. I don't think it's going to work like that. So we'll see if teams experiment with 6-man rotations. We'll see how many I think we're going to see a lot of teams be like the Dodgers, who give like 8 or 9 starting pitchers like a good amount of starts. I think that's what we're going to end up seeing. So I don't know. We'll see. But go Matt Moore. Number 1 Matt Moore fan over here. I've always liked him.
Well, that's if we even get to 162 games, Ryan. I mean, you talked about Japan running things a lot better country-wise. Again, not to get political, but
nope.
Their baseball teams and, players and owners probably managed it a lot better too. They got in a lot more games, right? I mean, we ended up with 60, so we don't even know if we're going to get to that.
Yeah.
So it's not just the country; it's Major League Baseball as well. So I don't think we're going to get up to a full season. I'd be surprised. Spring training apparently starts in like 3 weeks, Ryan, or 2 weeks.
Wow, that's not going to happen. But we did not watch Tangled. That's the next movie for Disney Plus. We haven't gotten to that yet. Sorry, Glenn. It's on the agenda eventually. We will get to it soon. But we do have one thing that we can do, and that's America's Big Four sports trivia. Yay!
Snow's starting to fall to the ground too, Ryan. We're starting to get some accumulation out there. Live Snowmageddon update at 2 o'clock on a Sunday. When you listen to this, it'll be, I guess, Monday, and there'll be a lot of snow on the ground. But we're doing it right at the beginning.
Yes. Yeah, so we could be way off. You are correct. So this, you all will be listening to this on Monday morning. So you guys will be able to see how much snow we actually got. But Matt, what is the name of Miami's football team?
The Dolphins.
Professional football team. Yep. Okay.
Good
good start there. In basketball, what is the term for an offensive strategy move where a player will move without the ball towards the basket to receive a pass?
That would be a cut.
Yeah. There you go. Good job, Coach. For how many games must a baseball team be victorious in order to have a winning season?
Here we go. Mental math, Matt. Back at it. 82, right? Yeah.
There we go.
Take that, Zach. I just did mental math.
In inches, how big is the diameter of a regulation basketball hoop?
I'm not good with measurements. How am I supposed to know this? I don't know. I don't know. Skip it. I don't know any, and regardless of if it's basketball or not, Ryan, I'm not going to know any measurements. It's not in my brain.
The answer is 18.
Cool.
You will get, I think you will get this measurement. What is the measurement from the front of a baseball pitcher's rubber to the furthest back point of home plate?
That would be 90 feet, right? 60 feet? 60 feet. Who the hell knows? 60 feet.
There you go. I'll give you that. 60 feet 6 inches. 90 feet is from the bases.
Yeah. I don't know any measurements. I don't. I don't know any of them.
Well, here's a hockey question that you should get. In ice hockey, what is the name of the National Hockey League team based in Tampa?
The Lightning, the team that I hate.
All right. Oh, whoa, okay. I guess we're not getting anybody from there. In football, what is the term for multiple receivers occupying the same area of a field?
Bunch formation, right?
A flood.
What? All right, whatever. Sure.
Okay, here's some more mental math for you. You ready? In baseball, if you add Babe Ruth's number to Mickey Mantle's, what number do you get?
Oh, God. I don't even remember their numbers. I think Babe Ruth's 3, right? So we got one of them. Mickey Mantle, he was in the 50s, I think. So we're going to guess. Give me 50. Hold on. Oh, this is not a good day for me. Give me 58. Lock me in for 58.
The answer is 10. Mickey Mantle is number 7.
Oh, who am I thinking of in the 50s?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
The answer is 10.
Cool.
So you're
10.
just a few off.
Just a bit off.
True or false?
Who was in the 50s for the Yankees that I'm thinking of? I don't even know.
College football cheerleaders used to be all male until 1923.
I have no idea.
True or false?
True.
There you go. Back on the board. All right.
All right.
How many? Okay, you're not. I'm not going to ask you for that one, because we've established that it was a measurement question, and we've established that. I'll just ask it for the heck of it. It doesn't count. How many yards wide is the standard football field?
How many yards wide?
Yes.
Not long, wide, right?
Wide, yeah.
Jesus.
And I just thought that was too difficult, so I was just going to skip right past it.
Do you know the answer to that?
I thought I was close when I answered it.
I don't even know.
I said 53.
I've never even
it was
thought of
53 and a half. So
you never think of it wide.
No.
That's never, yeah. All right.
All
Why
right,
did
here
I
we
think
go.
Mickey Mantle's number was not 7?
I don't know. You're
Maybe
going
because
to
I
get
don't
roasted
watch-
in the group chat for that now. But
I don't care.
the last card here. The most rounds in an ice hockey shootout happened on December 16th, 2014 between the Washington Capitals and the Florida Panthers. How many rounds did they play before a winner was decided? So we were seniors in high school.
14.
20, if you can believe that. 20 shootout rounds. Abolish the shootout. On baseball scorecards, the pitcher is referred to as number 1 and the catcher is number 2. What number is the shortstop?
That would be 6.
There we go. All right.
Yeah.
So there was sports trivia for the week. Matt got 8 correct. So he's still doing pretty well. We've established the measurements are a question to avoid, but other than that,
Any numbers. Yeah.
so anything with numbers.
Who am
in
I
it
thinking
is-
of that was in the 50s? Anybody? It might have been a Red Sox player, I guess. I don't even know.
I
I don't do
know.
baseball history very well.
And regardless,
I don't do baseball history well. Yeah.
Listen, at least you admitted it. That's all you can do.
Yeah.
That's it for Best Available Podcast, episode 25. Episode 26 will not be out next Monday. It'll be out this weekend. Yay! We're going to be doing a special Super Bowl preview show. We're going to go through the matchup between the Chiefs and the Buccaneers. We wanted just to devote an entire episode just to that so we didn't feel rushed. So that'll be out. We're going to record it Friday. And then a lot of it will be out Friday night or Saturday. So enough time to consume it in time for the Super Bowl. So be sure to be on the lookout for that. And be sure to check out bestaavailableplayer.com. A lot of great content, high school sports, entertainment, regular sports, professional sports, college sports, everything that you need. We got podcast episodes coming back. All of our podcasts are active. We just had a new Forward Progress episode. That was a joy to listen to. Jabberjays is still churning out episodes. We got Soundtown, who just had on Mo Turner. That was a great interview. Be sure to listen to that. A lot of great things going on over at bestaavailableplayer.com. So for Matt, this has been Ryan. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you guys again this weekend.